I'm Captain Clay McCumber from the 335th Fighter Squadron, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Today we are celebrating our first event of the weekend to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the 4th Fighter Wing. 50 years ago, in the midst of the Vietnam War, Colonel Paul Watson, then commander of the 4th Tactical Fighter Wing, dedicated a time capsule on the occasion of the wing's 25th anniversary. Instructions were issued that it be dug up 25 years later as part of the wing's 50th anniversary. In 1992, Brigadier General Al Gers, then commander of the 4th Wing, elected to continue the tradition by dedicating a new time capsule to be unearthed on the wing's 75th anniversary here in the year 2017. Today, we will unpack that capsule and use the memorabilia dating back to 1967 and 1992 as an opportunity to reflect on the proud history of the 4th Fighter Wing. Then, in order to continue the tradition, we will dedicate a new capsule to be buried with memorabilia from the present day to be unearthed on the wing's 100th anniversary in the year 2042. We'd like to begin today's ceremony by introducing our distinguished guests. Commander and President, Air University Air Education and Training Command, Lieutenant General Stephen Quast, his wife Joni, and children Keegan and Lily. General Quast was commander of the 4th Fighter Wing from 2006 until 2008. Mayor, City of Goldsboro, the Honorable Chuck Allen. Director, United States Air Forces in Europe, United Kingdom, Brigadier General Mark Slocum. General Slocum was commander of the 4th Fighter Wing from 2014 to 2016. Brigadier General Larry Huggins, retired. General Huggins was commander of the 4th Fighter Wing from 1982 to 1984. County Commissioner, Wayne County, Mr. Bill Pate. Commander, 4th Fighter Wing, Colonel Christopher Sage. Vice Commander, 4th Fighter Wing, Colonel Brian Armstrong. Command Chief, 4th Fighter Wing, Chief Master Sergeant William Adams III. Chairman, Military Affairs Committee, Dr. Scott Lefevers. Lastly, from the Military Affairs Committee, Mr. Bob Hill with his wife Linda. Mr. Hill was present at the time capsule ceremony in 1967 and has spearheaded the effort to continue this fun and unique tradition. We would also like to welcome all group commanders, squadron commanders, and chief master sergeants in attendance today. Thank you all for your presence and support of this milestone celebration. And to all veterans, past and present, thank you for your service and welcome back to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. It is now my pleasure to introduce the commander of the 4th Fighter Wing, Colonel Christopher Sage.
Good morning. General and Mrs. Quast, Keegan and Lily, Mayor Allen, General Slocum, Commissioner Pate, General Huggins, Dr. Lefevers, Mr. Hill, members and guests of the 4th Fighter Wing, and citizens of the City of Goldsboro in Wayne County. Thank you for making the trip here today. As you can see, normal operations continue here at Seymour Johnson as our firefighters are responding to an alarm. Well, I feel truly honored to stand before you today as we celebrate 75 years of the 4th Fighter Wing. Activated in England on September 12, 1942, this wing was recognized 5 years before the United States Air Force became an autonomous branch. We're a wing with a proud heritage and a long list of notable aerial achievements. There's a reason why the wing motto is fourth but first. The fourth wing was the first to penetrate German airspace during World War II and the first to accompany bombers all the way to Berlin. We were the first to shoot down the German Me-262 jet fighter in aerial combat. In 1951, Captain James Jabaro of the 334th Fighter Interceptor Squadron became the first jet ace. The wing was the first to convert to the F-105 Thunder Chief, the first to convert to the Strike Eagle, and was one of the first to react to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in August of 1990. And finally, in 2011, the 4th Fighter Wing was awarded the first ever Doolittle Award from the Air Force Historical Foundations for their contribution to air power. So this weekend is a reminder that our story and our history has always been marked by the courageous actions of patriotic men and women who embody a legacy of service and sacrifice. We have a rare and unique opportunity to revisit that here today. In a few minutes, we're going to unveil the contents of a time capsule that was buried in September of 1992 on the occasion of the Wing's 50th anniversary, which also includes items from the 1967 time capsule. Today's ceremony cements this tradition into our history. Presiding over the initial burial was the wing commander at the time, Colonel Paul Watson, and the former mayor of Goldsboro, Mr. Tom Robinson. In 1992, General Jers and Mayor Hal Plonk presided over the ceremony, which of note was narrated by then Captain, now Lieutenant General Jay Silveria, who recently took command as the superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy. So, Tails, there's hope for you after all. Unfortunately, none of them could be here today, but I'm honored to have our local leaders with us and three of our former wing commanders. Despite technology's best efforts to outpace history, we've managed to obtain recordings of both the 1967 and the 1992 events, and have converted them to digital formats for the enjoyments of future generations. The following are two short clips from each of the past ceremonies.
I'd like to explain a little bit about what we're doing here. I think most of the fellows know what we're doing, but I'm not sure that the wives and some of the other people know. Colonel Kauser suggested at our dining in that we try to do something similar to what the British do, and that we take a record of the 4th Wing and some of the activities last night, pictures, and a list of the guests, and then we would take that and bury it for a 25-year period. And at the end of this next 25-year period, it will be the 50th anniversary of the wing, and at that time, we're leaving instructions for this capsule to be dug up and have someone go through this material. I don't know what they're going to do with it after they dig it up and go through the material, but they might find it interesting. And so today we're going to prepare this box, and then we'll go down and have a luncheon at the Officers Club. Mr. Withers and I are planning on being back here to dig this thing up. If there's any question about it.
We're here today to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the 4th Wing. Today we'll get to see what was buried in that original time capsule, and we'll dedicate a new set of memorabilia to wait until the 75th anniversary.
Well, maybe I should let Colonel Watson reveal the contents of this envelope. Colonel Watson.
Well, I can say one thing, I'm certainly happy to be here, but you know, at my age, I'm happy to be any place. I planted this thing in the first place, and back in 1967, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought maybe the Soviets might come along and blow this place up, so this is the reason we put these things in the vault downtown.
This time I'm proud to dedicate this time capsule to our sons and daughters on behalf of the proud men and women of the 4th Wing and our lifelong neighbors of Goldsboro and Wayne County.
Well, thankfully the Russians did not blow us up, and thankfully the time capsule survived. So, Mr. Hill, I can only imagine how surreal this experience must be for you 50 years later. Thank you for sharing this milestone with Team Seymour again after all these years. The state of the wing and the world in 1992 was at a fascinating time. Immediately following the transition from the F-4 to the F-15E, the wing was called to action in the first Gulf War. Despite months of intense combat and the ongoing commitments in the region following the war, they still committed to add to the tradition and celebrate the wing's heritage by burying that time capsule. Well, I think I've effectively built up the anticipation, so Mr. Hill, if you'll join me, we'll see what's inside.
This capsule, buried in 1992, appears to have been decorated by the maintenance fabrication shop. Inscriptions of the U.S. Air Force and 4th Wing are flanked by the 4th Wing and Air Combat Command patches on the side, along with the inscription, Time Capsule, 25 September, 1992. Gentlemen, please do us the honors and open the capsule. Inside the capsule, the items have been amazingly well preserved. The first item we see is a folder containing many documents from the wing, cataloging the contents and intent of the time capsule. Included in that folder is a letter from Brigadier General Gers. Colonel Sage, would you please read the letter?
Greeting from the men and women of the 4th Fighter Wing. This letter, along with the contents representing the squadrons which constituted the 4th Fighter Wing in 1992, was enclosed to serve as a reflection of where we are at 50 years. No longer a struggling younger sibling among the military branches, the Air Force has emerged as a leader in the role of armed warfare. The development of air power as a strong entity is reflected in the history of the 4th Wing. Leading the Air Armada of World War II in 1942, the 4th Fighter Group set an impressive record, earning the motto, 4th but first. In the years that followed, the 4th continued to set records and lead the Air Force in accomplishments. In 1992, the most recent accolades came as a result of war in the Persian Gulf and reorganization of the wing. Deploying with the F-15E Strike Eagles in August of 1990, the wing was in the middle of converting to the aircraft. After setting up operations in Oman and then Al-Kharj, Saudi Arabia, the fighters led the attack on Iraq, beginning on 16 January 1991. Amassing an impressive tally of statistics, the 4th Wing returned to Seymour Johnson in March of that year. Within 1 month of return, the wing was tasked to restructure as the first composite wing in the Air Force and added the KC-10 extender to its roster of aircraft. The 4th Wing's success led to the adoption of the new structure throughout the service. In addition to the daily requirements to maintain readiness, the 4th Wing has an ongoing tasking to provide approximately 300 people and 12 Strike Eagles to Saudi Arabia as a protective measure against the regime of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. With a 3-month rotation cycle, some members are going for their 4th deployment since August of 1990. At this time, an even greater challenge is facing the Air Force. Defense cutbacks have reduced money available for the military, forcing a reduction of personnel and a wave of base closures. While the 4th Wing and the location at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base appears secure, the cutbacks do add a degree of insecurity along with the normal stresses of operations. Despite uncertainty and change, the 4th Wing stands poised to go into the 21st century as the forefront of American air power. This time capsule, with its contents from 1992, added to those of 1967, is dedicated to the continued heritage of the men and women of the 4th Wing. May God bless you all. Signed, Eldon W. Gers, Brigadier General, United States Air Force Commander.
Accompanying this folder are many items from the surrounding community that show how closely tied the base is to the citizens of Goldsboro and Wayne County. These include such items as a Wayne Community College fact book, various documents from the Chamber of Commerce and the Military Affairs Committee, minutes from a Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting, and a Goldsboro News Argus paper from 25 September 1992. The Air Force Association also contributed a book titled Air Power in the Gulf, which includes documentation of the 4th Fighter Wing's operations in Desert Storm. Continuing into the capsule, we find several packets contributed by the many units of the 4th Wing. Note that at the time, the 4th Wing was a combined wing that included both the fighter squadrons and KC-10 tanker squadrons under the same leadership. From the Mission Support Group, we find items contributed by the Civil Engineering Squadron, Security Forces Squadron, Transportation Squadron, now known as the Logistics Readiness Squadron, Comptroller Squadron, Contracting Squadron, Chaplains Corps, Public Affairs, and Honor Guard. The packets contain a variety of documents and photographs detailing functions and histories of each unit. Some unique items include a Security Forces beret, several rounds of ammunition used by the base Honor Guard at ceremonies requiring military honors, and a Desert Storm Bible distributed by U.S. CENTCOM, inscribed with notes written by the chapel community. Next, we find items from the 4th Operation Group and the 916th Air Refueling Group, many of which detail their recent involvement in Operation Desert Storm. We find packets from the 911th Air Refueling Squadron, the 344th Air Refueling Squadron, the 4th OSS, the 334th, 335th, and 336th Fighter Squadrons. Note that the 333rd Fighter Squadron was not reintegrated with the 4th Fighter Wing until 1994. These packets contain items such as photographs, written histories, and rosters. Some more unique additions include several t-shirts, scarves, patches, and even a set of undergarments from the Rocketeers.
Not going to touch those.
Below the 1992 items, we find another package that contains items from the 1967 time capsule. These items were displayed to the crowd at the 1992 ceremony, then repacked in the new capsule. The first and most obvious item is a model of an F-4 Phantom operated by the 4th Fighter Wing from 1967 until it began the transition to the F-15E in 1988. Next, we see a roster of the entire 4th TAC Fighter Wing, along with many photographs of wing leadership, the various squadron patches, and even a few cutting-edge color photos of the brand new F-4D Phantoms. Also included are several newspapers from both the base and the Goldsboro community.
With social security numbers. This photo here is a photo of them burying the time capsule in 1967. So lots of great photos to come look at the end of the ceremony.
Well, they tell me if you live long enough, you'll likely enjoy a good day out at Seymour Air Force Base. And having been associated sort of with the base since 1956 and knowing all the wing commanders that served here and all the organizations, it certainly is great to see that this history has been preserved. And as most of you know, SoundScope was the vehicle that did the recording for the 67th anniversary. And that's been going on all these years. By the way, as a side note, the Seymour Johnson newspaper, when it first started, was called the Seymour Scope. And somebody along the way decided to drop the Seymour, and that didn't work. So then they decided, well, Seymour doesn't mean anything, just a scope, so that now it's the right time. So it's always good to keep up with what's going on. And I just wanted to say that it's been a pleasure being here and being on this side of the street for a change. And in final thing, I've been associated with Seymour Johnson all my life from the very beginning in 42. And I found out the other day that my father was born in 1904, the same year that Seymour Johnson was born. So therefore, I feel honored in that my father gave me life, and Seymour Johnson gave me purpose. And without the support and hope of Linda Daniels Hill, none of this would have happened to me. Thank you.
Next, we see a chronology of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, as well as a chronology of the 4th Tactical Fighter Wing. The former describes the formation of the base and all activities occurring from 1940 to 1966, while the latter describes activities of the wing beginning in 1940. Of note, this contains many fascinating accounts of its operations in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, including first-hand descriptions of several MiG kills in Korea. And finally, we see a detailed history of the 4th TAC Fighter Wing from 1 January to 30 June 1967. It contains a thorough description of the organizational structure, personnel, facilities, operations, and training for the wing. The final item of note from the 1967 capsule are 2 letters. The first was written by the wing commander, Colonel Paul Watson, and given to the Wachovia Bank and Trust Company of Goldsboro to be given to the wing in the year 1992. It describes the location and intent of the time capsule in the event it was forgotten, and also lays out a contingency for the capsule to be unearthed and maintained by the U.S. Air Force Museum should the 4th Wing move or Seymour Johnson Air Force Base be closed. Fortunately, neither of those things happened. The second letter was intended to be a personal note from Colonel Watson to be delivered from the bank to the 1992 wing commander. In a humorous turn of events, that note was never written, and Brigadier General Gers received 2 blank sheets of paper inside of an envelope. Following this weekend, we will continue this tradition by burying a new time capsule to be dug up on September 25th, 2042, on the wing's 100th anniversary. The new capsule was decorated by members of the 4th AMXS Fabrication Shop. Contained in this capsule will be selected artifacts unearthed today, digital archives of the more sensitive and fragile items, and digital archives of the 1967, 1992, and 2017 ceremonies. The new contents focus on the 4th Fighter Wing's ongoing contribution to national security, specifically the continuing combat operations in the global war on terror. These items are on display below the stage and may be viewed following the ceremony. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our community leaders who will present their contributions to the capsule. First is Mayor Allen to present the contributions from the City of Goldsboro. Mayor Allen.
Good morning, everyone. It's my honor and my pleasure to be here this morning. General Huggins, we're glad to have you here. I do have to welcome back 2 of my favorite active generals. General Quas, you're at home. We're always glad to have you. Jonah, you look just as good or better than when you left. Keeping Steve straight's been good for you. Keegan, Lily, when y'all left, y'all were like that. You've turned into awesome young adults. I'm glad you're still hanging out with your parents. They are pretty cool. It'd be probably fun to hang out with them some. So we're just glad to have you here. Slopes, it's always good to have you here at home. General Slocum is the one that taught me what, it's a little bit of math. He taught me what power triangle was. Everything we would talk about, he'd say the power triangle, the power triangle. And finally one day I looked at him and like, Slopes, I missed that class in school. What is a power triangle? And he looked at me with that look only General Slocum can give you. And he said, Chuck, it's the city, the county, and the base. That's the power triangle. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. But it took me a few conversations with General Slocum to get that. But anyway, I do, on behalf of the City Council, the citizens of Goldsboro, I just want to say I'm happy to be here. I'm happy. I look forward to the 100th anniversary. We're going to do some really good things. I do want to take 1 minute, since we did get the announcement just this week about the tankers coming to Seymour Johnson. I want to thank each and every one of you in this Air Force and in this community, because if it weren't for the great things you folks are doing at this base, then we wouldn't have gotten those planes. I'm very confident of that. And so y'all helped this community get this base. One other point, that the last several folks that have been here as commander have all left to be generals. And we have hope that we're going to keep Forrest in line for that. We're working hard to be sure he gets there. So, Forrest, I think there is hope for you. But I do just want, on behalf of the city, thank everybody. Now, as far as what we're putting in the time capsule, to being the great mayor that I am, last night at 5:30, I asked the city manager, hey, what are we putting in the time capsule tomorrow? And he said, I don't know, but I'll have you something in the morning. And my hope is he's out in this audience, and he has me something that we're going to put in this time capsule. And when he gives it to me, then I'll be able to tell y'all what it is. So that's my story on the time capsule. But I'm sure we have good stuff because he never lets us down. But with that, I'll turn it back over. And I just want to thank all of you for making this community the great community that it is. And welcome home, generals.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'd now like to invite Dr. Lefevers from the Military Affairs Committee to present its contributions.
Good morning. So I'm Scott Lefevers. I'm the chairman of the Military Affairs Committee. And for those of you who haven't heard of us, we're a group within the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce with a mission to maintain and improve our relationship with the base and the community. First, I want to thank Colonel Sage for you and your leadership team for putting all this together. I know it's a big feat, and it's an honor to serve with you and to help support you and your airmen. But we've selected 9 things to go into the capsule, and I'm going to go through each one of them as quickly as I can for you. So the first one's a MAC coin. It represents the strong bond between the base and the Military Affairs Committee. The second one is a group photo of the members of the Military Affairs Committee during the change of command in 2016, when then Colonel Slocum relinquished command to Colonel Sage. A copy of the geocaching, I hope I'm saying that right, project booklet from the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce Leadership Wayne County program, highlighting over 50 geocaching sites throughout Wayne County and its rich history. A copy of the Goldsboro News Argus dated September 12th, 2017, with a feature article on this 75th anniversary. Also a copy of the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce Windows of Wayne magazine depicting Wayne County's attractions, businesses, and quality of life opportunities. A copy of the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce annual report highlighting the programs of the Chamber impacting education, military, leadership, government affairs, and workforce development. We also have a copy of the 2017 Wayne Regional Agricultural Fair highlighting agriculture, which is Wayne County's #1 economic driver. We also had to include a basic Wayne County map because it'll be interesting to see how the changes go over the next 25 years. And lastly, we had to put in a phone book because we don't know those are going to be around in 25 years. But anyway, I hope everybody has a safe and fun weekend, but more importantly, a safe and prosperous next 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lefevers. And last but not least, I'd like to invite Commissioner Pate to present the contributions from Wayne County.
Mayor, my team was a little bit better than yours. We bought our stuff. We were ready today. First, I'd like to thank Colonel Armstrong. There was a ceremony that took place at the same venue yesterday. One I always like to come to, the MIE-POW ceremony. It just always impresses me the sacrifices that Americans and troops are willing to make to defend this country. And everybody needs to remember that. And the precision flying at the end, I'm just always amazed at Mission Man formation. Thank you for letting me be here yesterday. What I brought here today to you is a few mementos of Wayne County. I won't pull it all out. One's a coffee cup. I hope we'll be drinking coffee in 25 years with the county logo on it. Another one's a corn cob that comes from our cooperative extension, which shows the how large agriculture is in this county and what it's meant to this county. But the things that are really important here are, one thing is we've got, right now, Craig, is it 28 projects going on? They only got 24 on this one, but our county manager only had 24 and gave me this stuff. And by the way, George Wood will be leaving in December, and Craig Honeycutt will be our new county manager effective January 1. And Commissioner Acott's back there too. But what we do have in here are those projects that's showing that we're working hard to make Wayne County a better place. And we have pictures of the new Maxwell Center that will open in March and the construction that's going on. We have pictures of the 2 new schools that have already been built and the one that's being built right outside this gate right now. And I'm not sure it's good, the name should not be changed to maybe Slocum, I don't know. He was a very persuasive gentleman, if you don't know that, and he convinced us it was the right thing to do, to rebuild a new school there. Thank you, sir, so much. And we certainly miss you being here. But having said all that, I appreciate again just being here, and I want my hats off, if I had one, to all the troops and your dedication and what you do for this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. Colonel Sage will now dedicate the new time capsule.
At this time, on behalf of the proud men and women of the 4th Fighter Wing and our lifelong neighbors of Goldsboro and Wayne County, I'm proud to dedicate this time capsule to our sons and daughters who will follow in our footsteps in this great wing. We hope they can use this small sample of the rich history of the 4th Fighter Wing and its special relationship with our community as an inspiration for their future contributions in the defense of freedom and our great nation. As you see today, the relationship that Seymour Johnson has with its neighbors and its surrounding communities is second to none. It is a shining example of the profoundly special bond we in the U.S. military have with those whom we serve. The City of Goldsboro, the Military Affairs Committee in Wayne County do so much to support the base. So really it's like a square, I guess. You have the MAC in there. It's like a square. Do so much to support the base and those of us who live in and around the community. That our time capsule and the rich history that this wing it represents simply would not be possible without your contributions. We spend a lot of time focused on the future and how best to conquer the challenges that lay ahead, preparing daily for tomorrow's high-end fight. But it's ceremonies like this that are important and even necessary to remind us how far we've come as an Air Force community together. And when we reflect on that journey, we find that our airmen of today aren't too different from the airmen of 50 years ago. Bound by the ideals of freedom and liberty, this wing has served and will continue to serve courageously, paving the way for our future generation of warfighters. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing in this great celebration. We look forward to sharing this base with you over the next 2 days. And may God bless you, may God bless our community, and may God bless our great nation. Thank you very much.
At the conclusion of this weekend's events, the new capsule will be sealed and buried at the site adjacent to the wing headquarters building, marked with a plaque directing its unearthing 25 years in our future. In the meantime, many of today's more fascinating discoveries will be on display at the conclusion of this ceremony below the stage and at tomorrow's anniversary gala. Immediately following this event, we will be commencing the base tours. Escorts are waiting at the base theater behind you. Please make your way to them by 10:10 a.m. to begin the tour. Thank you for attending this morning's ceremony. We hope you enjoyed this unique look at our history, and we look forward to sharing the rest of the weekend's celebrations with you. Enjoy your time here on Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and have a great rest of your morning.